Hello students, today we are going to study sample handling techniques used in infrared spectroscopy. So in UV spectroscopy you have studied that the sample has to be in the solution state. So if you have a solid sample, you have to dissolve it in a suitable solvent, and then only you can analyze that sample. Unlike in IR, you can study the sample in a solid, liquid as well as in a gaseous form. So irrespective of the state of matter, and even though the material is viscous, difficult to handle, that can be directly analyzed using IR spectroscopy. So when you take into consideration the cell material, its ideal properties should be taken into consideration. So in UV, you are using quartz as a material of construction of your sample holder, as it is transmitting UV radiation. So here too you have to select a material which has high transmission to the IR radiation. It should be inert, it shouldn't chemically react along with the sample. It should be available in the pure state for the suitable spectroscopic studies. It should be non-toxic. If it is there used in a transmission mode, the substance should have a low refractive index, and if you are studying the sample in the reflectance mode, the substance should have a high refractive index. It should be non-hygroscopic preferably. If it is hygroscopic, it can result in a fogging of the windows. And if you have a fog windows, in that case they have to be polished. So during polishing of the windows, the material should not be too hard or it shouldn't be too soft. If it is too hard, you cannot polish it, and if it is too soft, it will result in over polishing and change in a path length. Similarly, you have to take into consideration the cost of the material. So these are commonly used material for making the cells. So the cheapest one, you have sodium chloride or potassium bromide. Sodium and potassium salts are soluble in water. So whenever you have aqueous substances, this cannot be used as this will readily dissolve. So for that you have to use divalent salts like calcium or barium fluoride. Even you can take into consideration zinc selenide. If you are using it in a transmission mode, in that case those salts with the low refractive index will be suitable. But when you go along with the reflectance technique, in that case you have to use the substance with a high refractive index like germanium, or sometimes even diamond is used, or silicon or zinc selenide. So these are the material useful for a reflectance technique, while the substances with the low refractive index, these are suitable for the transmission studies. Now here you can study even the properties of the material. Okay, so if you are using sodium chloride or potassium bromide as a salt, so these are soluble in water, and so naturally you cannot use it for aqueous systems. Additionally, if you have solvents, these solvents should be dried before using. So even if they are going to contain a trace amount of water, in that case it will readily dissolve those salts and your path length of the cell is going to get varied. So UV, you have very simple sample preparation. What you have to do is you take the substance, you check its solubility, and depending upon the solubility, you give a preference to the aqueous systems, and if it is not soluble into it, then you take into consideration the other organic solvents, taking into consideration its UV cutoff. Now in case of IR, as you can handle any type of material, solid, liquid or gaseous, again you have different sample preparation technique for each of them. If you have a solid, you can use a pelleting technique or mulling technique or cast films, reflectance technique, photoacoustic spectroscopy and FTIR microscopy. So reflectance technique is being used for solid as well as liquid, while photoacoustic spectroscopy is common to solid, liquids and gases. If you have a liquid sample, you can either handle it in the form of neat liquids, or you can put it in suitable solvent and measure it in the form of solution. And for gases, you have specially designed multiple pass cell. Okay, you can use the signal with the help of a microphone. So what we have is a modulated light, is a chopped light. It is sent to the sample, which is surrounded by the inert gas like helium or nitrogen with good thermal conductivity. Sample has absorbed the energy, it's vibrationally excited and it releases its energy. The released energy is reabsorbed by the gas and it is heated. The heated gas produces pressure fluctuations which is sensed by sensitive microphone. So this is photoacoustic spectroscopy. Photons are being used for producing acoustic signal. Okay, now this is a special technique. The second category is reflectance technique and third category is transmission techniques. Now in the reflectance technique, you use this for solids and liquids. So first special technique is your photoacoustic spectroscopy, that you can use for solids, liquids as well as gases. This is a second class, alright, reflectance technique which can be used for solids as well as liquids. Okay, now when the light falls on the matter, you have studied number of interaction taking place. Out of them, two are reflectance and transmittance, correct? So whenever you are going to measure the decrease in the intensity of transmitted radiation, you call this as a transmittance technique. And when you measure the intensity of reflected radiation, it is going to fall under reflectance technique. Okay, so it is again reclassified into three types: specular reflectance, diffuse reflectance and attenuated total reflectance. Okay, so what is specular reflectance? Whenever you have a smooth surface, okay, evenly smooth surface, you have the phenomenon of specular reflectance. So here angle of incidence is equal to that of angle of reflection. So you have your incoming radiation, it will fall onto the smooth surface and it will be reflected. Okay, so you have your sample cell, okay, here, and this sample cell is going to reflect the radiation. So this reflected radiation, some part of the radiation will be absorbed. So naturally the reflected radiation's intensity or its energy is going to get dropped down. So what we do is we measure reflectance R. Okay, so we plot a graph of reflectance versus that of the wavelength or wave number. The second technique is diffuse reflectance. Now these all reflectance techniques are being used in Fourier transform mode. So what is Fourier transform? That we will study in subsequent lectures. Okay, right now you remember that whatever reflectance techniques are there, these can be used only in a Fourier transform mode. Okay, so your instrument is suitably modified so that this adapter can fit into your FTIR instrument. So diffuse reflectance is generally observed from a powdered or rough surfaces. So what you have to do is you have to take your powdered or rough surface and that is been mixed along with the KBr and KCl. Okay, why those? Because these will not absorb the infrared radiations. Alright, so you mix it along with KBr or KCl and then you have to place this mixture into a sample cup. the IR radiation is being made incident onto it. Okay, now unlike specular reflectance, you have a complex phenomenon taking place in a diffuse reflectance. At each of the surface, you have your light absorbed, reflected and scattered. Alright, so you have your all different powdered material, and at each of this surface you have the complex phenomenons taking place, and what we record is the intensity of reflected radiation here too. Okay, so this is also abbreviated as DRIFTS, drifts. Third technique is attenuated total reflectance. It is also abbreviated as ATR. Now in ATR what you have is a you can see out here you have a crystal. Now this crystal is of high refractive index. Okay, so it's a highly dense media. So when you have a light entering from a high dense media to low dense media, so your low dense media is a sample, you have a reflection taking place. Fine. So here at the middle you have your substance with a high refractive index, alright, like germanium, silicon, diamond. Okay, so this is, or KRS, so this is going to have a high refractive index, and when your light is going to transfer from a high refractive index material to low refractive index material, it is going to get reflected back. Alright, so what has to be done is, as you go on increasing this angle of incidence, the amount of reflected radiation is also going to get increased. So what we do in this technique is we maximize the angle of incidence. Alright, so when you maximize the angle of incidence, the reflectance phenomenon would be completed, means you have more of the light reflected back. Fine. So you can see that the incident radiation strikes off at this interface, it is reflected. Again it strikes off this interface from high to low dense media, again it is reflected. So it is reflected n number of times here, you can see. Okay, and then it's going to leave the adapter, and then the light is been detected by a detector. Now what happens in ATR is, whenever this light strikes this interface, it penetrates little bit into the sample cell. Okay, and this sample cell is going to absorb characteristic infrared radiation. Alright, so only certain wavelengths are being attenuated, means they are weakened. Okay, so every time it hits this sample, it is going to get weakened further. So as it is hitting n number of times, you have maximum interaction and further attenuation taking place, or weakening taking place. Alright, so it is going to give us more strong signal. Fine, and that's why we are having this kind of arrangement wherein you can get multiple times of hit, and that's why the beam is being attenuated or weakened. Okay, means it is strongly absorbed. Okay, so why do you call this as a total reflectance? Because you are selecting a critical angle of incidence wherein the intensity of reflected radiation will be maximum. And why attenuated? Because your sample is going to weaken your incident radiation. Now how well this infrared radiation penetrates the sample, it depends upon what is the wavelength of incoming radiation, what is the index of refraction of two materials, and what is the angle of incidence. The penetrating radiation is also called as evanescent wave. Now multiple internal reflectance is also abbreviated as MIR. It is similar to that of ATR, but the difference is that you have specially shaped crystal wherein more number of internal reflections will take place, typically 25 or more. So you can see that here a specially designed crystal is there. Okay, this is your incoming radiation. It strikes off and again it travels into your material with high refractive index and it is recorded by a detector. Okay, so first technique what we have studied is photoacoustic spectroscopy, wherein you use it for solids, liquids and gases. Reflectance technique, second one, it is being used for solids and liquids. Correct. Now additional techniques for solids first we are going to study. Okay, now in UV what you do is you take a solid and put it in a suitable solvent, correct, wherein it is soluble. Okay, and solvent shouldn't be absorbing. So here also we have an requirement that solvent shouldn't absorb IR radiation. So if you want to have some suitable solvent in IR which will be transparent throughout the IR radiation IR range, so we don't have a single solvent. Okay, at least in UV you can think of water or methanol which are transparent. Here in case of IR we don't have a single solvent that is transparent throughout the range. Why? Because here it is your vibrational rotational spectroscopy and your all bonds are vibrating and naturally they are going to absorb your infrared radiation, correct. So if you take into consideration any kind of solvent, say water or CS2, CCl4, some other organic solvents, they are going to absorb your infrared radiation. So we don't have ideal or suitable solvent which is transparent throughout the IR ranges, and that's why generally we have to use combination of the solvents, like if you use carbon disulfide and CCl4. Okay, so this combination we have to record the spectra into CS2 first and then again you will record the spectra in CCl4. Alright, so wherein if you use CS2 as a solvent, in that case C double bond S solvent bond is itself is going to absorb, or if you are going to use CCl4 as a solvent, in that case CCl bond itself is going to get it's going to show the absorption. Alright, so depending upon the transparency characteristic of the solvent you have to pick up the solvent, and generally we have to use we can't rely on the single IR spectra, we have to record it at least 2 times, in one in CS2 and other one is CCl4. Okay, and if you don't find any suitable solvent, then we have to go along with a dispersion technique. Okay, so in it you don't have a limitation like UV, you have to do the measurement in solution state itself. Here in case of IR we can do the analysis in dispersion state also. Only precaution what you have to take into consideration is when you are analyzing your dispersion, the particle size of your analyte has to be less than the wavelength of radiation. Alright, so if you know UV is a very short wavelength radiation, and if you want to have a particle less than that, it's very difficult task, it's not possible, fine. So you can't do the analysis in UV in a solid state or in a dispersion state because you have a scattering as a prominent phenomenon. But infrared radiations are quite longer wavelength radiations than in case of UV. So you can grind your particle suitably so that the particle size is less than that of the wavelength of radiation, and when you achieve this, your particle size is less than that of the incoming radiation wavelength, you can minimize the scattering phenomenon. Fine. So just a precaution, when you do the analysis in a dispersion form or in a solid state as such, the particle size you have to take into consideration. So for solids, the third technique is pelleting. First is photoacoustic spectroscopy, second is attenuated total reflectance, and the third technique is pelleting. Okay, it's a simple way as that of you make your tablet. Fine. So in tablet you take API, you add suitable excipients. In pelleting technique also, you have to take your substance and mix it along with the suitable material. Now what this is suitable material? It has to be IR transmitting. Okay, so we are aware about now which materials transmit IR. You have potassium bromide, chloride, sodium chloride, or calcium salt, silver salt, cesium salt, zinc salt, correct? So out of that, KBr is the most widely used technique, use material. Okay, you use alkali metal halides because they have the property of cold flow. What does it mean is, when you apply the pressure onto it, it is going to form a glass like transparent or translucent film with a sufficient strength which can be handled fine. So it shouldn't be too brittle to break, correct? So if you press any material and form a wafer, in that case it should have sufficient mechanical strength, correct? So what is been done is, you take the analyte and you add KBr to it. You make a fine powder using mortar or pestle, or you can use a small ball mill also. Okay, once you have this mixture formed, you have a hydraulic press. You just put your material into the die, and you have to apply the pressure of 10,000 to 15,000 pound per square inch. Okay, so it's going to give transparent disc due to cold flow property of your alkali metal halide. Now when you do this pressing, in that case there has to be a removal of air, because if you have an carbon dioxide present in it, in that case it is going to show its own absorption bands. Or if you have an moisture present, even H2O is going to have its own absorption bands, fine. So you have to take care of doing the measurement in a vacuum, and moisture or carbon dioxide shouldn't be there doing when you do the pelleting. The disadvantages using this technique is that you could have at high pressure polymorphism playing the role. So your compounds one polymorph can change into the another polymorph, or you can have some ion exchange reaction taking place. Say for example, if you have an amine hydrochloride and if you are mixing it along with the KBr, okay, so bromine can easily displace your chloride, and naturally your analyte will now turn out to be amine bromide, correct? So that's the problem. Ion exchange reaction could be the problem, or polymorphism could be the problem when you use the pelleting technique. Okay, now this is the way. It's a simple technique. As you prepare your tablets, and you have an 7 millimeter die, and you get a very fine crystalline wafer. Okay, you have bottom anvil and top anvil like your punches. So you just apply a very high pressure of 10,000 to 15,000 psi. You will get your wafer. Or you are using your hardness testers, so you have handled them. So just here, rather than using it for breaking the tablet, you are going to use it for making a wafer. Alright, just put the material out into your die and just apply the pressure to form a wafer. Okay, so solids, fourth technique is mulls. First is photocaustic without any sample preparation. ATR, again no sample preparation is required. Alright, then you have an KBr, you have an sample preparation. The compound is mixed along with the KBr or sodium chloride or cesium iodide bromide and formed vapor. Alright, so you are doing this in a solid state. Remember, when you do the analysis in solid state or in a dispersion, okay, you have to reduce the particle size below the wavelength of incident radiation, so that the scattering will be absent. So mulling technique also is a dispersion technique. You have to finely grind your material so that the scattering is minimum. So what is in mulling is, you are going to mix your compound along with the heavy hydrocarbon oil. So it is also called as Nujol. Okay, hydrocarbon you are aware of, carbon, hydrogen, all your organic compound containing only carbon and hydrogen. Okay, it's a heavy oil. Now if you have a carbon hydrogen, it's a bond, naturally it is also going to have its own absorption, correct? So whenever you have the problem along with the CH bond, we generally replace the CH along with the halogen, preferably fluorine. So you call this as an fluorolube. Okay, in a hydrocarbon structure, when you replace hydrogen by fluorine, you get a halogenated polymer, and this can be used as a mulling agent. Okay, so what you do is you take the substance, finely powder it, and then mix it along with a Nujol or a fluorolube, and then this mull is sandwiched in between two flat salt plates like KBR, correct? So you just sandwich in between two flat salt plates, and then introduce it into your sample compartment. Now what are the limitations using mulling technique? So if you have too little sample, then you will not get any sign for the sample in spectrum. If you have too much sample, you get a very thick paste, and it is not going to transmit the IR radiation. Alright, now this is a transmittance technique, correct? It's not a reflectance technique, so it is a transmittance technique. Alright, so your light has to be transmitted. If the crystal size of the sample is too large, it can result in a scattering of radiation. Okay, you have to take precaution that mull will cover the complete whole plate area. Like in UV, you try to fill your 3/4 of the curvature, so that the light can pass completely through the solution. It will not pass through the air, correct? So here also you have to take into consideration, through whatever area infrared radiations are passing through, the whole area should have mull present into it. If you have too little mull, it can result in a very weak spectrum. Only it will show strongest absorption band. So if you have weak absorption bands, that cannot be seen if you have too little mull present. Okay, and if you have too much mull, in that case it will result in a poor transmission of radiation. The next technique is a cast film technique. Generally this is used for polymeric materials, and first way of casting is solvent casting. So what you do is you take the substance and you just put it in dissolve it in non-hygroscopic solvent. Alright, you take the drop of this and deposit it on a KBR or NaCl cell plate. What is going to happen, as you have used volatile solvent, it is going to get evaporated, and is going to form a very thin film onto the cell that can be directly analyzed. So here also you have to take into consideration the thickness of the film. So what is the solvent out here? That should dissolve the sample, and it should also produce a uniform film. What you have to do is, once the solvent is evaporating, you can just remove the film. It can be stripped off from the plate and taken for the analysis, or directly you can cast this film onto the IR transmitting windows. So in cast film, one is a first technique what you have seen is a solvent casting. This is the second technique, melt casting. So whenever you have a solid sample that melt at relatively low temperature without decomposition, you can just melt it on to the plate using hydraulic press. Okay, what you have to do is you have to take plates, you have to sandwich your substance into it, and using the hot pressing, the substance has to be melted, and then this molten substance, after cooling, it is going to form a thin film, and you can directly take this for further analysis. Microtomy is one of the sample preparation for your solid samples. So you have to cut the sample, generally 20 to 100 micrometer. Generally it is used for even plastic products. And once you have this thin film of your plastic obtained using microtomy, okay, so solids can be handled by photoacoustic spectroscopy, by reflectance. In reflectance we have studied specular reflectance, diffuse reflectance, attenuated total reflectance. You can use pelleting technique, you can use mulling technique, you can use cast films, or you can use microtomy. Alright, now for the liquids. Liquids can be handled in their neat stage. Neat means in whatever state your liquid is, without further dilution you can do the analysis, or you can mix it along with a suitable solvent and then further take it for analysis. Now when you want to record this liquid in the form of films, the problem is along with the sample volatility. Okay, if the volatile sample is there, gradually it will be vaporized and it will produce progressively weaker spectra. So what is being done is, this liquid generally is mixed along with the suitable solvent, and then using a sealed cell you can do the analysis of those liquids. What has to be done is, either you can go along with the liquid films if the sample is non-volatile, but if the sample is volatile, in that case you can't form a liquid films, as from the films you gradually the solvent will get vaporized. So what we do is, we fill those volatile liquids into the sealed cell, and then these sealed cells are introduced in the path of infrared radiation for measurement. But these sealed cells are very difficult to clean, okay, because they cannot be dismantled. When you take into consideration the solvent, the properties which should be ideally exhibited by the solvent is, it should dissolve the compound, it should be miscible along with your analyte, it should be non-polar so that you can minimize the solute and solvent interaction, and it should not strongly absorb infrared radiation. So first we have talked about sealed cells. Sealed cells are for volatile samples and they are very difficult to clean. Fine. So in the sealed cell, what you do is, you fill your sealed cell with a syringe. Okay, in a syringe you take your volatile sample. Either you can take it in its neat state, or you can mix it along with some suitable solvent, and then you can just, with the help of syringe, you can introduce this into the sealed cell. All right. If your analyte is non-volatile, in that case you can go along with a semi-permanent cell. Alright, so what you have is your two plates, stainless steel plates. So alright, one is here back plate, and here you have an front plate. Alright, so then you have an gaskets so that they can hold your windows well. So windows are being made up of IR transmitting material. So you have your back window and front window. So these are being made up of IR transmitting material. So what you have is your infrared radiation entering from the plate. Alright, it will enter, it can, as the windows are being made up of your transmitting material like potassium bromide, NaCl or cesium salts. So they will transmit the infrared radiation, and in between these two windows you have your sample. Alright, so and you also have a spacer. So this spacer is being used for varying the path length. Alright, so they are available with variety of thicknesses. So with this change in the thickness, you can vary the path length, which we have seen. So it's going to produce dense star pattern. Alright, so it can produce a path length up to 4 meters, and it's just going to use a small volume. Okay, you can hyphenate IR along with GCN as well as thermogravimetric analysis. So this is for gaseous sample analysis. So if you have an IR at the end of GC, so whatever eluted components, gaseous samples are there, that can be easily detected by IR. So IR is been specially used for distinguishing structural isomers. It cannot distinguish enantiomers, but if you have a structural isomers, you can do the distinguish in between them using GCIR. So this technique has been particularly used for pollution studies or gas purity determination. Same way when you do along with the thermogravimetric analysis, so wherein you heat the substance and whatever changes are been taking place, decomposition processes are been taking place, you are tracking down in your thermogravimetric analysis. So you measure the weight of the substance as the decomposition is taking place. But if you want to identify the decomposition products, in that case we hyphenate TGA along with the infrared spectroscopy. So thermogravimetry is a tool for quantitative analysis, while infrared spectroscopy is a tool for qualitative analysis. So when you hyphenate TGA along with infrared spectroscopy, so here infrared spectroscopy will identify the gaseous decomposition product form. So this is an excellent tool for a complete qualitative and quantitative characterization of thermal decomposition products. Okay, so as to revise, what you have done is a sample handling technique in for IR. We have seen first the ideal characteristic of sample holder. Okay, what should be the material of construction, correct? So in that we have seen that most oftenly you use alkali metal salts. Okay, so generally commonly used materials are sodium chloride, potassium chloride, sodium bromide, potassium bromide, cesium salt, calcium salt, silver salt, zinc salt. The material with low refractive index are being used for transmission techniques, and the material with high refractive index like germanium, silicon, diamond, KRS, these are being used for your reflectance techniques. Fine. So we have studied three categories of techniques. Spatial technique, you have an photoacoustic spectroscopy or FTIR microscopy. Second class is your reflectance technique, and the third class is the transmission technique. So reflectance techniques we have studied three: specular reflectance, diffuse reflectance, and attenuated total reflectance. So specular reflectance is for your polished surfaces, diffuse reflectance is for finely ground powder, and attenuated total reflectance is again for solid substances which are very difficult to handle. So irrespective of whatever state your substance is, in the form of threads, plastic, paper, films, or you have paste, these can be directly analyzed without any kind of sample preparation using ATR. Alright, attenuated total reflectance. So you have specially designed adapter which will directly fit into your FTIR instrument. Okay, so conventional spectrophotometer is not suitable for reflectance technique. You have to take help of Fourier transformation technique. So these three kind of diffuse reflectance technique we have, three kinds of reflectance techniques we have studied, and then we have studied all transmission techniques. Fine. In case of solids, we have studied solids can be handled in addition to photoacoustic spectroscopy and reflectance technique. In a transmission mode, you can do it the analysis in the form of pelleting or mulling and cast film techniques. Okay, or you can use along with the microscopy. And if it is a liquid, liquids can be handled either in the neat state, their original state, or you can mix it along with a suitable solvent, okay, taking into consideration the IR transmission properties of the solvent. And now we know that there is no ideal suitable solvent in case of IR. Okay, and finally we have studied gaseous samples. Gaseous samples, you have a specially designed multipass cell with effective increase in the path length and sensitivity. Okay, thank you.